We're going to talk about battle drills. All right, starting with battle drill 1, which is react to contact. Okay, so we fight 3 to 1. We're walking in the wood line. We take contact from an enemy element. The first thing that the very first person in this formation that takes contact does is return fire to the enemy. Okay, so as we're sitting here in our fire team, all right, we're going to return fire first. Then we're going to find cover and concealment, keep shooting at the enemy, and then we use our 3Ds. All right, 3Ds: distance, direction, description. All right, so the first thing we're going to do after we return contact is count distance. We'll say it's 100 meters in this scenario. Okay, direction, usually use the clock, so we'll say 12 o'clock. All right, so that's straight ahead. 100 meters, 12 o'clock. Description of the enemy, we'll say 3 times enemy. If you can see their clothing, you say their clothing. And if you can see what type of weapon systems they have, you say weapon systems. So AK-47s. Okay, 3 times enemies with AK-47s. This allows the squad leader a lot of information, gives him a lot of information so he can start making some decisions, okay, on what he's going to do. But in the meantime, as we're shooting back, calling back our 3Ds, we're doing our best to get online and use the cover and concealment to get online and return fire to the enemy. We try to get online the best we can. That way we don't have any chances of fratricide and we can distribute all of our firepower evenly on the enemy as we're shooting at them. Okay? Once the 3Ds happen, this gives the squad leader his initial assessment of the situation. Then he moves up to get eyes on the situation to see if everything the team leader just called out is accurate. Okay? Once he sees what's going on, he says, all right, there's 3 enemy. That means that this fire team cannot fight these guys by themselves because we fight 3 to 1. There would only have to be 1 enemy in order for this fire team to fight, but there's 3. So that tells the squad leader the entire squad has to fight. Now, the squad leaders come up. He said, yes, this is all accurate. Now I have to make a decision. I'm going to go attack these guys. There's 2 ways that we can attack them, okay? But this right here ends battle drill 1, which is react to contact. All right, when we go into the 2 methods, that's when we go into battle drill 2 alpha, which is a squad attack. All right, so he's going to make a decision. He can either do a frontal assault or he can flank the enemy. If he chooses to do a frontal assault, he's going to tell Bravo team to either go to the left or the right and get online with Alpha team. Okay? Alpha team, Bravo team. All right, we want to do our best to keep the most casualty-producing weapons in our squad, which are the saws, evenly distributed. So he's going to move Bravo team either to the left or to the right to conduct a frontal assault. Now, a reason why we might do a frontal assault over a flank is if there is no terrain that supports a flank. There are no trees, there's no cover concealment, there's no hills that allow us to actually flank the enemy. So if this is a big open field that we take contact in, the best way and the safest way to attack them is going to be online and conduct a frontal assault. Now, once both fire teams are online, we can begin attacking the enemy. One fire team is going to be a base of a fire while the other fire team maneuvers. So you're going to use one of your movement techniques, a 3 to 5 second rush, and a bounding technique to actually go and attack the enemy. There's 2 types of boundings, alternate and successive, and we'll talk about both. Okay, so if they're going to do an alternate bounding, all right, one team will be suppressive fire, so we'll say Alpha team is going to suppress, Bravo team bound. If they're using alternate bounding, all right, Alpha team is going to suppress, Bravo team is going to get online. As soon as they get online, they're going to begin suppressing, and then Alpha team will bound in front of Bravo team, alternately bounding in front of each other as they move, okay? And then once Alpha team gets set and they set a base of fire, then Bravo team will bound a little bit further than Alpha did, okay? So it's going to look, one's going in front of the other the entire time on alternate bounding. All right, if they're going to choose the other method and do successive bounding, then once again, Alpha team will lay down suppressive fire. Bravo team will bound 3 to 5 second rush. Once they get set and begin suppressing the enemy, then Alpha team will bound the exact same distance and they'll remain online pretty much the entire time. So that is the difference between alternate and successive bounding. Okay? That is a frontal assault. You'll continue bounding this way as long as you're in contact. Once the enemy stops shooting at you, you can get online and assault through the objective. All right. Now, if there is terrain that supports a flanking maneuver, we'll say that all of this down here is woodline, and all of this is woodline. So we can either go left or right, but we want to flank the enemy. All right, the whole point of a flank is that the enemy doesn't see us coming. They have no clue that we are going to come and hit them in the side. All right, so the terrain supports a flanking maneuver. The squad leader is going to make a decision whether he wants to flank right or flank left. Usually there's an SOP that's associated with this, either New York or California. New York being on the right side of the map, California being on the left side of the states, or Roger or Louis or hamburger or hot dog, whatever you want it to be. An SOP is not an SOP unless everyone knows it, so just make sure whatever you choose that your entire squad knows it. Okay, so he's going to choose to call New York in this instance, and he's going to flank right. He's going to go back, grab Bravo team, and use a bold flanking maneuver to flank New York. Okay, he's going to use all this cover and concealment to get Bravo team online, parallel to the enemy, to begin the assault. Once he's reached his last cover and concealment, the Bravo team is going to open up and start shooting the enemy. All right, it's very important where the squad leader goes. The squad leader is going to go just behind the team so he can control the fires of Alpha and Bravo at the same time. This is where our lift and shift signals come into play. Okay, so you're going to shift. These guys are going to have to eventually shift off of the objective because right now their fields of fire are right here shooting at the enemy, right? But as this fire team gets closer to the enemy, they're going to have to shift their fires, to the left. That way they ensure we don't commit fratricide. Now, you also have to have an SOP or a plan for your lift and shift fires. We usually utilize a pace plan when we do this. Okay, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. So what this may look like is your primary might be radio. So you're going to call it up on the radio and say, hey, I'm going to use radio to call my first shift fire. Maybe your alternate is a flaming rock. Okay, flaming rock is you take a rock, right? And you tie a piece of VS-17 panel to it, which is very orange, it's fluorescent. You can take it and throw it. All right, and when you throw it, they'll see it, and then they'll shift fire. Contingency could be maybe a star cluster, a whistle. A lot of people like whistles. You cadets have whistles. All right, so we'll say it's a whistle blast. Maybe one whistle blast is the first shift. And then emergency, a lot of people like to use runners. All right, those are kind of hard, but in an emergency, we can always send a runner over here to tell them to shift fire. Now, what's important is, as you utilize your pace plan, you also have to have a confirmation from these guys. So if I call up on the radio, shift fire, as I'm getting closer to the enemy, then I need them to confirm the shift fire as well via the same pace plan. That way I ensure that they have shifted from shooting at the enemy to shooting off of the objective. That way I can continue my movement on assaulting these enemy forces. Okay, so remember, you have to have a pace plan and you have to have confirmation before you continue your movement. All right, so as we hit our last cover concealment, we've opened up and began shooting at the enemy. We've called our first shift, our shift fire. You can have multiple if you want, but it's always good to have a shift and a lift. So we've called shift fire off the objective, and we have begun assaulting through the objective. Now, it's very important. You are going to use bounding techniques this entire time as long as you are in contact. If these guys are shooting at you, these guys have to be bounding, okay? Using either the successive or alternate bounding techniques. Either one is fine, but you have to bound because you don't want to get shot in the chest by these guys as they notice you all of a sudden begin shooting at you, okay? So these guys are killed. We've killed these guys, and we're decided it's time to get online. We're no longer in contact. We get online. We've called lift fire at this point. Now, there's two types. You can either call lift fire or ceasefire. The difference between the two is a ceasefire means no more shooting, period. Everyone stops pulling the trigger. Even if someone pops up way over here, we can't shoot them. These guys can't because we call it a ceasefire. A lift fire technically means you shoot at targets of opportunity outside your last shift call or last TRP, which we don't have TRPs on this objective, which we'll discuss a little bit later. But a lift fire means you can shoot at target of opportunity. So anything way over here, you can actually shoot at those targets if you call a lift fire. So those are the two differences. I would advise at advanced camp or whenever you guys go to basic, utilize whichever one your cadre wants you to utilize. If they want to do cease, say cease. If they want to say lift, use lift. Either one is fine. Some people have preferences. Okay. So as we get online, we're no longer taking contact. We're going to clear through this objective and make sure all these enemy are dead. We're also removing the M4s from their bodies as we cross them. It's also important to not kick, throw the weapon systems, or try to damage them in any way. The enemy is going to die firing at you, which means their weapon systems are going to be on fire. So if you run by and kick the weapon system or pick it up and throw it, there's a possibility that the round inside the weapon could go off and shoot one of your battle buddies accidentally. So we don't want to do any of that as we cross through the objective, okay? So we clear through, we remove the weapons, we pick them up and place them off to the side. We make sure they're dead as we go all the way through, and we establish our LOA, which is our limit of advance, okay? So our first LOA. Now, the distance that we want to have between the last enemy and our LOA is beyond 35 meters. We want it to be beyond 35 meters because that is hand grenade range. The general distance that someone can throw a hand grenade and it go off and injure you is 35 meters. So we want to be beyond 35 meters when we establish our first LOA. Once this element calls LOA, your support by fire, your alpha team will pick up and begin movement to clear through the objective parallel to Bravo team. Okay? So they pick up and they move online through the objective as well, making sure that Bravo team didn't miss anything as they move through, and then they're going to establish their LOA. Also, minimum distance of 35 meters from the enemy. Okay? These two guys have to link up down here. They're the last man of the two formations, so you want to make sure they're yelling out last man. That way they can link up and finish completing your L-shaped diagram for the objective. Okay, at this point, the very first thing you do is reload your weapon systems. All right, we reload first just in case we get a counterattack from the enemy so we can start fighting again. Then you get your LACE reports from your fire teams, and we go into the specialty teams, EPW and aid and litter. All right, now your EPW and aid and litter should be already identified prior to your mission. They shouldn't be the same two people, so you should probably pull maybe one from each fire team, or maybe just identify Alpha is EPW, Bravo is aid and litter, or vice versa, whichever one you want to do. But regardless, these are identified beforehand. And remember, we always do EPW search before we can do aid and litter. So even if we have one of our battle buddies that's shot on the objective, we still have to search the enemy first before we can go into aid and litter. I'm sorry, clear the enemy. You have to clear the enemy before you search them, okay? So you have to clear the enemy, then you can search and do aid and litter at the same time. But regardless, you have to do EPW clear first, all right? Then you can search. We do this because just in case we miss something on the objective, as we're clearing the enemy, if they were to pull over, roll over, and have a grenade or a handgun or something, we want to make sure we neutralize them before they have a chance to hurt one of us doing aid and litter on one of our battle buddies. All right, so EPW clear, then search. All right, this completes Battle Drill 2 Alpha Squad Attack.